You're lying on the couch with someone who actually cares about you, and for the first time in weeks, the room is perfectly still. Their head is resting on your shoulder. You can hear the low hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, and there is absolutely nothing wrong. You should be happy, shouldn't you? But instead you feel a sudden, sharp urge to check your email or get up to fix something in the other room. Your skin starts to crawl, and you find yourself obsessing over a tiny, insignificant thing they said 3 hours ago. You aren't feeling love in this moment. You're feeling a desperate, frantic need for the door. Here's what nobody tells you. That urge to bolt isn't a sign that you've fallen out of love or that you're naturally cold. Here's what's actually happening. Your nervous system has categorized intimacy as a threat to your basic survival. This is a mechanism called a deactivating strategy. It is an internal emergency brake that your brain pulls the second it feels like someone is getting too close to the real you. You aren't actually looking for an exit because you're bored. You are looking for an exit because your brain thinks that being known is the same thing as being hunted. You are trying to find safety in the only place you've ever truly found it, alone. To understand why your brain treats a hug like a cage, we have to look at the work of Dr. Mary Ainsworth and her famous strange situation study at Johns Hopkins University. She identified what we now call dismissive avoidant attachment. In her research, she noticed that some children wouldn't cry when their caregiver left the room, and they seemed almost indifferent when they returned. But when researchers checked their heart rates and stress hormones, they were through the roof. These children had learned that expressing a need for closeness didn't result in comfort. It resulted in rejection or being overwhelmed. As an adult, your brain still carries this blueprint. You've become a master at not needing anyone because, at one point, not needing anyone was the only way you could keep your dignity intact. Think of your heart as a turtle. It only feels secure when its head is tucked deep inside its shell, even when the sun is out and the grass is green. Then there is the phenomenon of the vulnerability hangover, a term deeply explored by Dr. Brené Brown. Think about the last time you actually did open up and share something deep. Or maybe you just spent a long, connected weekend in total emotional sync with someone. Georgi, do you remember the crushing sense of regret or exposure that hit you the next morning? That's the hangover. To your nervous system, being seen feels like being exposed to a predator in the wild. You feel an intense, almost physical need to rebalance the scales by pulling away, ghosting, or picking a tiny fight to create some distance. It's an emotional sunburn. Even a gentle, loving touch feels like a sting when you've been out in the heat of vulnerability for too long without your usual layers of protection. Well, we also have to look at the mechanism of engulfment anxiety, a concept often studied by family systems experts like Dr. Harriet Lerner. This is the deep-seated fear that if you let someone in, they will eventually swallow your identity whole. If you grew up in an environment where a parent relied on you for their emotional stability, you likely learned that closeness equals loss of self. In your adult brain, intimacy feels like quicksand. Every time someone asks you what you're thinking or tries to plan a future with you, you feel like you're losing your grip on your own life. You pull away because you are trying to find where you end and they begin. It is a frantic, necessary search for the boundaries you weren't allowed to have as a child. You aren't being mean. You are just trying to make sure you still exist. Another layer of this is something Dr. Amir Levine calls the phantom X, or the idealized partner strategy. This is a brilliant subconscious trick your brain plays to keep you from getting too attached to the person actually standing in front of you. You find yourself obsessing over an ex-partner from 5 years ago, or you create a mental checklist of a perfect person who doesn't exist. By focusing on someone who isn't there, you effectively sabotage the connection with the person who is. It's like an emotional thermostat that automatically kicks on the air conditioning the moment the room gets too warm. You are literally cooling yourself down to keep from melting into the other person. Notice how you only seem to crave the person you can't have, and the moment they become available, the spark mysteriously vanishes. Yeah, notice how this manifests in your adult life when things are actually going well. Think about the last time you were in a relationship that was stable, supportive, and healthy. Did you find yourself thinking they were too nice or that there was no chemistry? We often confuse the spark with the familiar anxiety of having to earn someone's love. When someone gives it freely, your brain doesn't know what to do with it, so it labels it as boring. At work, this is why you might be the lone wolf who refuses to delegate, even when you're drowning in tasks. You've convinced yourself that you are the only person you can truly rely on. This isn't just professional pride, it's a childhood survival strategy that is still running in the background like outdated software. Think about your communication habits. Notice how you feel a wave of irritation when someone sends you a second text before you've replied to the first one. It feels like an intrusion, doesn't it? Like they're demanding something from you that you don't have the energy to give. This is why you might forget to reply for 3 days, or why you keep your social calendar so packed that you never have more than a few hours of downtime with any one person. You are managing your closeness levels like a pilot managing fuel. You're terrified of running out of yourself. You've become so good at being self-sufficient that you've forgotten that intimacy is supposed to be a source of energy, not a drain on it. Notice the physical sensations in your body when someone says, "I love you," or tries to have a serious talk about the relationship. Does your throat tighten? Do your eyes start darting toward the nearest exit? This is why you might use humor to deflect a tender moment, or why you suddenly start talking about work when things get too emotional. You are trying to scramble the signal because the direct connection is too intense for your system to handle. This childhood pattern is still running in the way you handle praise, too. You might deflect a compliment or downplay your achievements because being celebrated feels like being targeted. You'd rather stay in the shadows where it's safe and quiet, but we have to be honest about the shadow side of this self-reliance. While your ability to not need anyone has gotten you through a lot of hard times, it is also becoming a prison. There's a very thin line between protecting your independence and starving your soul. If you keep pulling away every time things get real, you will eventually find yourself in a life that is perfectly safe, but entirely empty. You might be hurting good people who truly want to see you, not because you're cruel, but because you're terrified. The walls you built to keep out the pain are now the same walls keeping out the love. It's a heavy price to pay for a sense of control that is mostly an illusion anyway. The real shift happens when you realize that your urge to pull away isn't a truth about the relationship. It's a memory from your past. You have to teach your nervous system that you are an adult now, and you have the power to walk away if things actually get bad, which means you don't have to run away while they're still good. You can stay in the room. You can take the sunburn of being seen and realize that you won't actually die from the exposure. You aren't that helpless child who had to disappear to stay safe. You are a person who is allowed to be known, messy edges and all. Healing this isn't about becoming clingy or losing yourself. It's about learning to trust that you can be connected and free at the same time. Think of your heart not as a vault that needs to be guarded, but as a door that you finally have the key to. You can choose when to open it and when to close it, which means you don't have to keep it bolted shut forever. One final image. Imagine sitting on a park bench next to someone you love. You don't have to merge into them. You can just sit there, two separate people sharing the same view. What is the one specific flaw you always seem to find in people the moment they start to get close to you? Tell me in the comments, because naming the exit ramp is the first step to staying on the road. Next time, we're going to talk about the anxious avoidant trap and why you keep attracting people who chase you until you finally lean in and then vanish the moment you do.